the offseason is officially here. And soon, some trades are going to be happening.
The Colts at number 4 and Houston at number 2 in the same division, both looking for a quarterback. So yes, trade that number 1 pick.
There are some deals in the making that absolutely need to happen. Let's take a look at 10 blockbuster trades that we need to see happen. You're starting off with the potential deal that has to be on everyone's mind with the draft coming up, especially in the Windy City. As you probably know, the Chicago Bears hold the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. However, unlike drafts past, Chicago is not actually in the market for a quarterback. Considering there isn't another surefire one type of draft prospect to take first overall, like when the Buffalo Bills took Bruce Smith back in the day, Chicago should try and find a QB-starved trade partner that is willing to send an arm and a leg to Soldier Field in exchange for the top pick. The Indianapolis Colts may just be the team for it. Not only do they have a long tradition of success when it comes to taking quarterbacks first overall in the draft, the team has also been in quarterback purgatory ever since Andrew Luck shocked everyone and retired early ahead of the 2019 season. Now, following 4 straight seasons of playing quarterback roulette with retread veterans like Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan, the Colts have to get serious and rebuild this thing from the ground up. Obviously, the first overall pick will come at a very high cost, but Indy is a good fit to work with Chicago. The Colts have a valuable asset in Michael Pittman, and the Bears desperately need a star wide receiver to help facilitate the growth of their young quarterback, Justin Fields. With how Indy's season projects to play out, they would be wise to sell high on Pittman, as there isn't much use in keeping him on the books with how bad this team could be next year. Although Pittman is a great player, he alone will not be enough. Look for Indy to send this year's first and second picks, which are 4th and 35th respectively, to Chicago so they can move up and get their guy, who many believe to be former Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. Don't be surprised if this isn't the only move that Chicago makes this offseason either. Like I mentioned, the Bears really need to start putting some weapons around Justin Fields to help him develop as a passer. Fields was electric in 2022 running the ball, and though he made some impressive throws, it's clear there is still significant room for improvement. Now, in Fields' defense, it is tough, particularly as a young quarterback, to make your mark throwing the ball when your receiving group is as weak as Chicago's. Darnell Mooney is a nice player, don't get me wrong, but he is far from a true number 1 guy. Chicago needs to take some of the draft capital, perhaps the second rounder they got from the Ravens, 56 overall, and make a deal with the Arizona Cardinals for veteran wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins has proven to be a significant difference maker throughout his career, and hopefully adding him into the mix would have a similar effect on Fields to what we saw with Josh Allen when the Bills added Stephon Diggs, or with Jalen Hurts when the Eagles brought in A.J. Brown. The Bears won't be the only team wheeling and dealing for pass-catching talent for their young quarterback. After the breakout year we saw from Daniel Jones, the New York Giants should look to retool this offseason as well. Because if the season started today, Isaiah Hodgins would be their wide receiver 1, and that is no way to set up Jones for success. I mean, honestly, this may be one of the worst wide receiver rooms we've ever seen. Their general manager, Joe Shane, needs to pick up the phone and call Houston to see if he can negotiate a deal for their embattled wideout Brandon Cooks, whom they may be able to get for cheap considering how disgruntled he is playing in Houston, where the rebuild never seems to stop. I honestly think he could be had for a 3rd rounder, and the Giants have 2 to choose from between the 89th and 100th overall pick. With one of those, I think Cooks could be had. Coincidentally, the New England Patriots, one of Cook's former teams, is also in the market for some wide receiver help. Last season's borderline anemic offensive output was largely due to their inability to move the ball through the air, and though Mac Jones wasn't great, he'll have had a full offseason to heal up his ailing back. So if the Pats bring in the right target for him, we could see a massive improvement. To me, there is no better choice than T. Higgins, who is coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and heading into a contract year. Cincinnati will have a hard time finding enough pennies in the couch to extend Higgins, so the front office may look to sell high on him for some additional draft capital, and perhaps some reinforcements on the offensive line. A package from New England's 1st round pick, 14th overall this year, and left tackle Trent Brown could do just the trick. The former Pro Bowler has been a force to be reckoned with in years past, but he's coming off a somewhat disappointing 2022, and thus Cincy may want to continue to add people who are capable of contributing on that line, especially considering the way injuries can pile up throughout the season in those trenches. I'd like to see them make a move for Buccaneers tackle Donovan Smith. Tampa is heading into a rebuild, and they might be willing to deal Smith to get off his contract and, of course, acquire some picks. Cincy could probably snag him for their 3rd and 4th rounder this year, 92nd 132nd and 131st overall. And the move would add some much-needed depth to their offensive line. Moving on, the New Orleans Saints are another team that we could see get extremely active this offseason. There are two deals that we need to see them make. Ones that would really help expedite the rebuild and get the franchise back on track in the post-Drew Brees, Sean Payton era. First, they need to get off some of the heavy contracts, as they are $57.1 million over following the NFL's announcement that the 2023 cap is $224.8 million. Of course, they can't get rid of that in one move, but dealing defensive end Cam Jordan is a pretty good place to start, as the 34-year-old carries a potential cap hit of $25.7 million. And Buffalo could be just the suitor, especially after the way their pass rush was exposed during the embarrassing divisional round loss to the Bengals. The Bills will also get Von Miller back from injury after that ACL tear cost him the stretch run of the season. Considering Jordan's age and salary, he could probably be had for the Bills' second rounder, which is 59th overall, and as well, maybe their third rounder next year. New Orleans' problems, however, extend far beyond their cap woes. They also desperately need to find a way to get a legitimate quarterback under center. I'm sorry, but the three-headed monster of Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, and Taysom Hill are not the answer. And I'm sure they don't want to go down that road again. The Saints need to package some picks to move up and swap with Arizona, who currently holds the third overall pick, so that they can get a quarterback capable of leading the offense with star wide receiver Chris Olave. It can be expensive to move up in the draft, but I think the Saints need to find a way to make this work, even if it means sending the 29th overall pick, which they acquired from Denver in the Sean Payton deal, along with their 40th overall pick and a future pick or two. Arizona is committed as it gets to Kyler Murray, so assuming that they don't find a guy at the top of the draft that they think is can't miss, it makes sense for them to cast a wider net during a year that Murray will ultimately miss most of while he recovers from the ACL tear that he suffered at the end of last season. This would put New Orleans in a position to get Bama's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, or even Will Levis out of Kentucky, depending on their preference. And of course, the preferences of the teams that end up drafting first and second. Continuing with the theme of ironing out the quarterback position, I'd love to see San Francisco ship Trey Lance down to Carolina in an attempt to recoup some of the draft capital that they used to trade up and get him. Lance is obviously extremely unproven and appears to have some legitimate durability concerns, but the athleticism and talent is certainly there. I mean, there's a reason that San Francisco traded up to take him third overall back in 2021. And while it might be a little painful for the 49ers to sell low, they have a good option in Brock Purdy. Maybe they even test the free agent market for a guy like Derek Carr, who could really thrive in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Or maybe they try to bring Tom Brady out of retirement one more time. Either way, this deal between the Niners and Panthers just makes a whole lot of sense, especially because these two teams have a relationship already after they orchestrated a midseason blockbuster in 2022 that sent Christian McCaffrey out west. So how about Carolina sends San Fran their 61st and 93rd overall picks back in exchange for a high upside swing with Trey Lance. Meanwhile, the Raiders, Derek Carr's former team, are also going to be searching the trade market for a quarterback. And personally, I think it would be electric to see them pull off a deal with the Green Bay Packers to put Aaron Rodgers in the silver and black. Well, Las Vegas is pretty much the opposite of the pure darkness that the veteran QB retreated to in order to weigh his future options this offseason. It would be interesting to see him play under Josh McDaniels, and the Raiders do have some solid pieces already on the offensive side of the ball. Although they would likely include one of them, maybe Darren Waller in the trade, perhaps along with this year's second-round pick and next year's first and second. Obviously, Rodgers can be a franchise-changing player. But after watching how the Russell Wilson trade played out in Denver last year, and considering the mercurial nature of number 12, I'd be surprised to see much more draft capital than this. And last but not least, we have the blockbuster deal of the year. The Baltimore Ravens decide that they can't commit to the fully guaranteed money that their superstar quarterback is after, and they decide to trade Lamar Jackson. And the lucky winner of this sweepstakes is none other than the New York Jets, who part ways with all of the picks to make this happen. Considering Jackson's track record, youth, and the control they'd have with the presumed extension that would follow, the Jets would probably send this year's first and second rounders, 13th and 43rd overall, along with next year's first and second, and a 2025 second rounder. And let's throw in a 6th round pick swap, because teams seem to like to do that these days. And then for the icing on the cake, the Jets let Baltimore take a flyer on Zach Wilson and throw in Elijah Moore, who seems to have fallen out of favor with the team. Now, that is a deal that I think we can all get excited about. But which NFL blockbuster trades do you want to see happen this offseason? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.